Man, is it good to be back. Student night was incredible, and I'm just so stoked to be here with you guys, like we're all together again. Now, you already know this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It has been a wild ride for the past few months, but this fall is gonna be amazing. I really believe that God is gonna use everything that has happened over the past few months to change the world. And the change isn't gonna come from me or from your parents, it's gonna come from you. Unless you've been living under an actual rock, you know that there's been a lot of anger, hatred, fear, and division. And something that has really begun to rise to the surface is this thing called cancel culture. Cancel culture is the practice of withdrawing support for or canceling public figures and companies after they have said or done something considered objectionable or offensive. That's like the dictionary definition. But let me put it this way. Let's say you're a senior in high school and you just got chosen to be the captain of the basketball team. I chose basketball because it's my favorite sport, okay? Get over it. Then the next day, you start seeing tweets and posts on Instagram from your classmates saying that you need to be removed as captain and kicked off the team because of something you posted on Instagram when you were in 5th grade. That is cancel culture. That has become an epidemic in our society, and I want to tell you something. It's wrong. It's wrong to want to cancel someone because of their past. Now, we could go back and forth all day arguing this. What if the person did racist things or other evil and by the standards of the world, unforgivable things? I want to point you to how Jesus handled these types of scenarios. First, I want to show you how Jesus handled a dude named Peter. We actually talked about this in the spring, but I wanted to bring this specific story back because it's super relevant. Do you remember when Peter denied Jesus? If you don't, here's a quick rundown of the story. Jesus was taken to be sentenced to death by crucifixion. Peter was hanging around the outside of the building where Jesus was being tried, and 3 times that night, he denied knowing Jesus. He denied any relationship with Jesus, any belief in Jesus. That is massive. Now let's quickly run through the rest of the story. Jesus dies, but then he comes back to life, defeats death, hell, and the grave. No big deal. And when he sees Peter for the first time after all of this, how does he respond? Does he write him off because of his very recent mistake? It's not like Peter had denied Jesus years ago. No, that was like a few days ago. And what does Jesus do? He calls Peter out of his mistake and into his calling. How amazing is that? How amazing is it to know that God doesn't write us off because of our mistakes, regardless of how old or new they are. No, he stands there with forgiveness in his hands, ready to call us out of our mistake and into the future he has for us. And this isn't the only time we see God do this. Paul, one of the most prolific evangelists of all time, wrote almost half of the New Testament, was a Christian killer before his relationship with God started. He was the guy who organized Christians to be murdered because of their faith in Jesus. And what does God do with him? He redeems Paul's past and uses him to change the world. Without Paul, we wouldn't have the global church that we have today. So what should our response be to cancel culture? Well, our response should be what God's response is to us when we make mistakes. We need to forgive and we need to love. Forgiving and loving someone doesn't mean that you're saying that what they did or said was okay, because racism, abuse, hatred, none of those things are okay. But we're not called to judge. We are called to love.